are the Pleiadians and Arcturians, again tag teaming tonight from the Galactic Federation.
Well, the Galactic Federation, are there people who represent other groups, like ambassadors? Do they stay there all the time, or do they have meetings and they all get together to discuss certain issues?
There are some ambassadors who stay here most of the time, similar to your senators and congressmen who live in Washington and then go home for certain periods of time. So it is similar to that. And there are also beings who basically serve and facilitate all the machinations and comings and goings, meetings, etc. In other words, administrators who actually live within the sphere. So it is, again, similar to DC. It is a city of its own, a small city that basically has sprung up in order to service the needs of those coming and going in the Galactic Federation.
So is it like our United Nations, where Russia and China have different ideas about the way things are, and because they can veto things, the United Nations does not really get anything done?
No, it is very collaborative, and yes, there are disagreements, but for the most part, there is a willingness to come to consensus, and so the outcomes are usually very productive and helpful.
And do you have...
It is a much more elevated and conscious way of governing.
But do you have a military for those, that 5%, that tries to take over different
Yes.
planets or people and
Yes.
use them as slaves?
We do have military operatives, and they serve to protect and defend primarily, and they do not take action unless it is necessary.
So if some species or organization or group was to come towards the planet Earth to try and take it over, would they prevent that from happening?
Yes, they can. And there is very little of such sort of endeavors because of the existence of the Galactic Federation and its diligence.
So for the most part, there's not any species, maybe from another galaxy or universe or whatever, that would come into our galaxy or universe. universe or whatever, and try and take over or steal the riches from a planet or enslave the people or anything like that.
Well, there are occasionally some rogue operatives, individuals, perhaps a duo, that will try to enter Earth's atmosphere for various reasons, unsavory reasons. You might compare them to a pirate. But for the most part, there are not large concerted efforts to overtake the Earth. There would be far too much resistance, and with the alliances in the Galactic Federation, it just would not be likely that a species with this sort of orientation would succeed.
Well, was it true that there was some kind of blockade around this planet for a while to protect this planet so it could grow, evolve?
Yes. Yes, and the planet is still highly protected.
And you said that there were people from Earth that were a part of this federation.
Yes, just like your wife. And Wendy Kennedy and many others. There are many who basically it is the same. So for people who have psychic gifts such as your wife, it would be common for them to stumble into or be attracted to the collective mindset of the Galactic Federation, for it is not powerful conglomeration.
But do they have a say in what goes on there? Do they vote? Do they get involved in the issues? Or are they just...
Certainly, they would be they can be as active as they want to be, just like any other species would be. Just because they are human does not mean that they are any less desirable as a member.
But they're not there physically.
That is correct. They are there telepathically.
So there is no one from this planet that is there physically.
That is correct.
So does that mean people like Emery Smith and some of the others are not telling the truth about some of the stories they tell? About going there physically, showing
To
up.
the Galactic Federation?
Yes.
Humans may be physically present there.
Does that mean that these stories about how certain organizations on this planet actually have the ability to go in outer space and go to other planets?
Yes, that's correct. It's not a preferable mode of transportation or communication. As you can see, it's very simple and straightforward for us to communicate with people such as your wife. So why put her body through the stress of such a journey or the expense of the equipment necessary for the travel? You see, when it is so easy to communicate telepathically and through remote viewing and remote sensing and remote hearing.
You mean there's nobody there that has figured out a way to go through a porthole or wormhole or whatever they're called and be able to get there with very low cost in some kind of vehicle and get there really, really quickly?
Well, you asked the question with a negative. You need to ask the question more directly as a yes or no statement. Is there a...
I know what you mean. Okay. So is there some form of transportation that you guys have that can get places almost instantaneously and without much cost?
Well, there is that sort of technology, but it is very costly.
It's very costly?
Yes.
But is money an issue? Is
Oh, of course.
So other planets still use money?
Other planets? I'm sorry, we thought you were speaking of humans.
No, I'm sorry. I was just referring to other species having the modes of transportation that was quick and easy.
Okay, can you ask it as a yes or no question, please?
Are there species that have the technology and have made some kind of ship or instrument where they can get almost anywhere instantaneously and without a large expense?
Yes.
And is it true that at some point when the global consciousness has reached such a high level that other species from other planets or other places like the Pleiades or anybody else will actually make themselves known here and start to help us?
Well, there's no way to say for certain what will happen in the future, but the truest answer is that we are on a trajectory for what you are describing, and it is very likely.
Is the energetic trajectory such that this is something that'll happen in within 5 years?
No. 10, perhaps. The illustrations of movies such as Men in Black and Star Wars, Star Trek, these are very close approximations. The diversity of species, comings and goings on and off world, that sort of thing.
And we did have some astronauts that went to another planet for 10 years for kind of a learning to see how things were on that planet. Our government or whoever provided the people to go, and they went and stayed on another planet for around 10 years.
Is that a statement or a question?
Oh.
Please, if you can, phrase it as a yes or no question.
Yeah. Okay, I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. Is it true that there was some Americans who were put on a ship that can go through space and went to another planet and was for like around 10 years as kind of to help for us to learn different things on that planet?
No. Not on... There have been humans who have traveled in spaceships into outer space and to the moon and to other planets. But they have not sustained life for 10 years.
That's funny, because there's a book about how I think around 10 or 12 Americans were put on a I don't know what we call them, UFOs, but on a ship that can travel through space, and went to another planet and stayed there for a while. And that planet had 2 suns, and I forget the name of it, but the radiation was too much, and some of them got sick from it. But anyway, and the idea was for them to learn, to bring information back to this planet about things. So...
Yes, that is correct, but they were not there for 10 years.
Oh, okay. And no, there's probably not an answer to this, but... Well, no, it's not a yes or no question.
Okay. You have a question?
Well, the question that I was going to ask does not have a yes or no question, and it's not really relevant. I was just going to say, and I'll make it a statement, I don't understand how some people have the knowledge of how to cure disease, how to have free energy, how to clean up the planet, and they don't do it. I don't understand how anybody can be that cold-hearted or greedy or whatever it is. I just don't understand it.
Yes, it is just selfishness and at times fear of changing things too drastically, and they excuse their behavior by blaming it on the dumb sheep that they will not be able to adjust to the changes or thrive through the economic changes that certain inventions and ideas would bring. But you will find, dear, that people can justify almost anything.
Yes.
If they like.
Do all the questions have to be yes or no answers?
No, it's just that sometimes when you ask a question, you use a double negative and it makes the question unclear. So we were asking you to restate the question.
Yes, you're right. I do that.
You would say something like, so is it not that? And then the question becomes unclear.
Right.
Because of the way you phrased it.
Yes, I understand. I do that. So the crop circles there is a species that's doing that to try and give us information?
Yes, the Zeta Reticuli primarily.
Oh, is that also known as the Greys?
Yes.
So they are trying to help us.
Yes. Well, communicate.
Yes, but the communications are things that would help us if we would pay attention, like free energy.
Yes.
Oh, and is it true that some of those crop circles have healing powers?
Yes.
And do the pictures of that crop circle have as much healing power as actually being in the crop circle?
No, but they still have some encoding for the subconscious mind. But it would not carry as much energy as actually being there.
Do you know if there is a reason why, as far as I know, there aren't any of these crop circles in the United States?
There are many, however, they are not as widely publicized here. And there is more attraction from the species to the European countries because of the ancient history and energetic accumulation from ancient sites that are not common in the West.
So it's true that the powers that be, whoever, military complex or the government or whatever, does have that much control over the news, what can be published and what, how much, and et cetera, et cetera.
Are you asking, is it true? Is it true that... What are you asking?
Is it true that there is a group who have enough power to control the news, to be able to dictate what can be on the news and what can't be on the news?
Well, it's not quite as insidious as you might think. News is primarily driven by revenue and certain types of stories induce fear and are not pleasant, and so the news casts a void these as more controversial.
Okay, so is it true that...
Well, we will say one more thing about that. There's more and more changes coming to, and honesty coming to mainstream television news because the internet has formed such strong competition, and there isn't the same level of, there's not censorship on the internet, and political correctness is not essential for the internet. And so there's more truth coming forward, and there is less and less advantage to news outlets to avoid these stories. by refusing to cover the stories, they become obsolete.
Okay, is it true that a lot of the movies are controlled by a certain group of people who, when they make movies about ETs, it's always that they're coming here to harm us?
Well, it is not as malicious. None of these things are malicious in the sense that you are making them out to be.
Oh.
The movies are created with more of a direction of fear because that is what sells. It is more aligned with the energy of the planet. It is not because they are intentionally trying to mislead or control.
Okay.
It is best not to, in regards to anyone, assume a motivation of some sort.
Right, these are just things that I would say that on a program called Gaia, that they have different things like that, and I'm seeing now that that can be exaggerated just because it's on Gaia and just because they're speaking about things that aren't talked about on the regular news. They still exaggerate things. And
well, we would say be cautious of any material from any source that creates a feeling of us and them and separateness. Because on both sides of the coin, both conscious and more unconscious media, it is a misstep to engage in this sort of us and them mentality, a sense of separateness.